Today's podcast is brought to you by the Hounds of Baskerville, the traditional barbershop and shaving parlour. Looking a bit scruffy? Got a big date? Maybe you got an important meeting? Go online and book at hounds.sg.
So I must have grown in so many ways in my first year of like no longer running the brands and everything. But actually, just to backtrack a little bit there, like the no longer running the brands was actually a bit of a time in between, because it ran the brands and then launched a mobile tech company and launched, an app and everything. And then I was consulting to help other people, build brands and that sort of thing as well. So, the space that I was in from the time that it closed, the False and Anti, which was the e-com store, between that and the time that, my journey took off and I was like completely tapped out from my businesses, was a couple of years, actually.
Right, okay. So
yeah.
it was a 2-year get out.
Yeah. Because by the time I kind of got out, it was, I was already running a tech startup and everything, and had an app or 2 apps or something like that. And
what apps?
In 2014 started a mobile tech company. Actually, we wanted to build a mobile game, and it was a huge undertaking. It was going to cost too much money. It was going to have to get heaps of funding. Heaps of people were like, game bubble's bursting, don't waste your time. So then we're like, okay, let's do something else that requires no funding, that we can just do on our own. So we launched a digital sticker app, and this was before digital stickers were a thing, right?
That's right,
yeah. So we launched that and started the business in 2014 and launched it in 2015, and that, got quite a bit of traction through tech space and all of that sort of thing. A few different media outlets and everything sort of picked it up because it was quite interesting in terms of like the content and everything. And then, just working through that for a bit, and then needed to pivot, and decided to, we were going to change that and we're going to build something else from that. And at that point then, sort of relationship was falling apart and everything. It was like, let's get away from that and start something new. So I then left. I left all of that and started consulting for people that wanted to build brands and everything. And my clients were sort of like in various places, which was lots of fun, because then I was like, okay, I'm going to take on a client. I'll take on one client at a time, and I'll spend the rest of the time traveling and growing myself, which is what I did. And now here I am a few years later.
That's cool. Because it sounds like basically it sounds like you burnt yourself out.
Oh, completely.
And didn't have like the balance between, I guess you kind of stopped and then made up for, or rediscovered and made up for all that time that you were burning out, and hopefully you come out the end of it understanding a more sustainable way to live. Do what you want to do and live and earn, and unfortunately we have to do that. But,
yeah.
So then you go back to New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
And discover more about your Maori heritage, is it?
So that actually kind of began here in Singapore. So one of my very best friends, so I grew up in Singapore in one of those black and white colonial houses on an army base. Kind of interesting in some way. My dad was, a sharpshooter in the New Zealand Army.
Like a sniper.
Yeah.
But New Zealand never has any issue with anyone.
No.
So who did he snipe?
Yeah, they would send them on missions to different places to support different things that were happening, right? So New Zealand never really had any beef with anybody, but...
Well, they do, but they sort it out in rugby.
Yeah. That's exactly how they do. They just haka everything. Yeah. Yeah, so he'd... if I'm honest, my dad and I don't really talk about like what he did, because we had a very sort of like frank discussion one day, and I was just like, Dad, have you ever killed anyone? He was like, do you really want to know the answer to that? I was like, oh, actually, I don't ever want to know the answer to that. And I was like, I'm sorry I ever asked. And I was like, considering what you did, and he was just like, okay, cool.
You were like innocently asking about like, oh, Dad, like how many cabinets have you made or something like that?
Yeah. And you know, I was young, right? So I didn't think about the impact of that, and you know, his answer could be no, I haven't, right? But if it was yes, I have, then there's a whole bunch of other questions that I'm gonna have, and it kind of changes my perception of my dad, you know,
right?
Or something,
and his answer on that day might be different to the answer if you asked him again in 8 months' time, because maybe he did have to do that in his job.
Yeah.
Did you learn barber? Like, did you just teach yourself?
Yeah, so there was obviously the same as the tattooing, right? Like there was no one doing these kind of hairstyles. Yeah, there was. It was called the slope back in the day. So literally you just have to learn how to use the clippers to kind of do that hairstyle and then chop the top off a little bit here and there. But what I did was, because I knew that there was no barbers that were doing that, and I hired a guy who started the shop with me, and he and I didn't have any experience cutting hair.
Which is exactly what you want to hear from your barber.
Exactly. And so what I did was, because I've been traveling, I had a friend who was barbering in Australia. And so when we opened, I made it a point, because I wanted to run like a tattoo shop. Tattoo shops have guest artists. And so I would have like guest barbers. I'm not sure, but I don't think any barbershops were doing that prior to us. And it became a big thing where guest barbers would come and cut hair here. But I knew that it was going to be a novelty for a white barber to cut people's hair, because no one's used to seeing a because barbering wasn't really like a respectable job back in the day. It was kind of like not like, it was as if you didn't take life seriously if you were a barber back in the day. It wasn't like a serious thing.
Or people didn't understand the art.
They didn't understand, of course. And so I wanted to change that. And so what I did was I flew my friend in from Australia, and he worked with us for about a month. And in that month, he was giving us a crash course and training us and getting us kind of up to as far up as to par as we could to deal with the clientele and to be able to start doing it. Because we were doing a small scale. We didn't really expect anybody to want to come cut hair with us, because it was a tattoo shop. And so he taught us how to, his name is Kyle Soulsby. He's got a barbershop, his own barbershop now, called Soulsby's, that's in Perth. And so he came down and just people seeing a white dude cutting hair, they freaked out, and it just like went crazy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so after that I had like a lot of barbers that were from overseas. We had friends from New Zealand, from England that were cutting hair there, and it was nice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What's the relationship between like barber and tattoo? Because they like, I've seen it elsewhere as well, right? And you see like barbers.
Yeah, in the 20s.
When then they'll have a lot of traditional tattoos as well, right?
Yeah, It's not really the most hygienic duo, because you get hair flying everywhere, and that's not great when you're tattooing.
No.
And so I think what happened was that in the 20s and 30s or something, in America, New York particularly, tattooing was illegal. I think all the way up to the 80s or something. Yeah, so it was kind of illegal. And barber shops used to have tattoo parlors in the back.
At the back?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the sign used to be in the window. You'd look for the sign that said black eye specialist.
I see.
And so that would be like the symbol where tattoo shops were prevalent in the back, right? Back in those days, barbershops were not just barbershops, they were surgeons as well.
Oh, because they used to bloodlet and stuff, right?
And dentistry and all these things. And so the modern doctor's coat comes from a barber coat.
Really?
So barber coats used to be white and long. And so when they had surgeons and they wanted to differentiate the coats, the doctors and surgeons had kept the long coats, and the barbers shortened their coats. And that was the different uniforms after a while. But yeah, back in the day, it was illegal, so people were getting tattooed in the back of barbershops.
Right.
And so that was the history of how that concept came about.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah. It's very, it's good synergy, I think. Traditional barbering and tattooing in the same place.
Okay, so September.
September. So let's say, school starts September 1st. By the time end of September, auditions have already taken place. You know what I mean? And you have to do the productions, and we would, present the play or whatever come towards the end of the year. So the whole year, you're literally like, taking time off, it's an extracurricular activity, right? So if you're a drama kid, you'll get credits for it. But if you're not a drama kid, you're just doing it for the hell of it, right? And that's what I was doing, because I didn't end up taking drama. I was just like, fuck, I really like it. So
Were your friends teasing you?
A little bit, but at that point, I didn't care,
Yeah.
because I was getting a little bit older, and when I was younger in high school, my first year, I was so worried about what everybody thought. I was the biggest tryhard ever. Cringe, dude, cringe. It was just so bad. But yeah, like at that time, I didn't care. I was starting to kind of get to know who I am a little bit more, so you can tease me whatever you want, and I just was really into it. So I auditioned the next year, and the next year was a musical. So I had to audition for a musical.
The Musketeers was musical.
The Musketeers was not the musical.
Oh, you didn't make that one?
No, because that was the Stage Crew one. So that was the one I got, and that was what inspired me, because I was seeing the
Oh, so
production.
Musketeers was community service.
Yes.
Right.
And then the next one was our the one that I auditioned for, which was Guys and Dolls. I don't know if you ever heard of Guys and Dolls, but it's about it's based in the 1920s, Prohibition time or something
Right.
like that. There's a bootlegger, and anyways, point is, it was a musical bit, and there was a lot of singing involved, right? So my audition had to involve singing, right? And dude, I'm Filipino, man. You know what I mean? So
Oh, so you can sing.
I'm not saying that I'm not like a freaking, I'm not American Idol, but I love singing. Like I'm not gonna sing now,
Sing.
dude. No, I'm not.
I
Gonna
think you should
now.
sing.
I
Sing the song from the musical.
So I auditioned with I'm not gonna do it, dude. I really putting me on the spot here. Really putting me on the spot here, huh? Can you imagine? I just start
It's all
throwing
right.
it. That'll be the best episode
It's
ever.
all right. We've got 2 more hours where we can to sing.
In any case, so I had to sing a song, and I auditioned with Razzle Dazzle. I don't know if you know that song. It's from Chicago. Richard Gere.
How does it go?
Nice try. But in any case, so I sung it in front of a lot of these people who, I had the reputation of a bully growing up.
Did you?
Unfortunately, and I regret it, but, a lot of people...
Was the reputation deserved?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Because I was such again, cringe,
Yeah.
right? I was a real prick growing up, In any case, so a lot of these people, when they saw me audition, especially I had to sing that song, which was a very Frank Sinatra-y song. You know what I mean? Man, I had a freaking standing ovation.
Really?
You know what I mean? And I don't know if it was in my audition, right? And I don't know if it was because of it was the surprise or whatever it was, or if it was actually.
Well, maybe those people were kind of like, yeah, now's going to be our turn to put shit on. To put shit on you, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? So it was one hell of an experience, and I actually got a part in the play. So the next year I presented in Guys and Dolls.
Give him the old
Razzle
razzle dazzle.
Razzle dazzle.
Okay, we got singing.
That's basically
we
what I
got
did,
singing.
you know what I mean?
Okay.
So you really tried to put that on. Huh? Even looked it up. It's like I gotta get him to sing at least one line. But in any case, So I did the play, and I
So you got the part.
I didn't get a major part because I was new. You know what I mean? So I did get a background part with a few lines, and actually had a few parts. So I played a gangster, which was perfect for me then, because that's the type of kid. I don't know, I'm not gonna get into that. Point is, it was like an old school gangster, pinstripe suit.
Yeah.
It was wicked.
Like Capone
Exactly.
people, Elliot Ness,
Exactly.
or that age.
That's one of the roles I got. The other role that I got was because as a background person, because you're not a main person, right? Or not a main person. You're not like a main cast, one of the main cast. You can play multiple roles
Right.
because they don't really notice that it's the same guy.
Yeah.
You know, if you're the main person, there's no way you can play anybody else but that main person, right? So I played somebody who was like in the mafia or whatever, and then I played a Spanish dancer. Yeah, man, dude, it was fucking hilarious.
It sounds